Ever wonder how podcasters land four-figure sponsorships, even when they're just starting out? How do people grab those 4 and 5 figure sponsorships? I used to think it was impossible because I started out as a nobody, but my mentor was a huge influencer, so I borrowed from his spark sometimes. I figured out a way to monetize my podcast in under a year and way before YouTube and any of these other platforms started paying me. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. But spoiler alert, it's not about having millions of downloads or even being famous or a huge influencer. In fact, the first way that I secured my first sponsorship might surprise you. Before we dive in, I want to know, how have you tried to monetize your podcast? And what are the things that you've tried? Let me know in the comments if you landed your first sponsor or if you're still trying to figure it out. Now, take it from me, I am no media expert, but no matter where you are in your podcasting journey, these strategies can work for you. So if you're ready to turn your podcast into a money-making machine, then stick around. The first way I secured my sponsorship might seem obvious, but so many podcasters overlook it. Leveraging the leaders in the community you're a part of is the game changer. Let me tell you a quick story. I was a part of an entrepreneur community where the lead coach was actually really supportive of the content that I made. When I pitched the idea of running an ad-raised program on my podcast, he really jumped at it and turned it into a 4-figure sponsorship. I was a little scared at first, I am not going to lie to you, but what's even cooler is because the community members watch my podcast, even the people who did not watch my podcast, that ad drove so many new members to come to the podcast. And I always got comments about, hey, that community that you mentioned, how do I get involved? So think about it. Do you belong to any groups or communities related to your podcast topic? Drop a comment below with your niche, and I bet you have untapped sponsorship opportunities that are right in front of you. Your first sponsorship might be closer than you think, so start with the communities that you're in. So why does this work? You might not feel like an influencer, but if you are active in the communities that you're a part of, you've already built know, like, and trust with the people that are around you. Now, what makes you different from the leaders of the communities that you run? They can't possibly know everyone in their communities. So it's really up to you to bridge that gap between their leadership and the people in their communities that follow them. You are in a unique space for you to capitalize on that relationship, leverage that person's influence and pocket, for lack of a better word, to invest in your show so that you can get more eyes on their community and build their community. It's a win-win. You get paid for your sponsorships and they get more community members. Now, the next thing that I did is a really big one. I started reaching out to online business owners and influencers in my niche, and here's why it works so well. When they sponsor your podcast, it's not just about exposure. Your podcast acts as a mega testimonial for their brand. Think about it. If a business like Chick-fil-A is willing to pay for testimonials, why wouldn't a small business invest in reaching their audience through a trusted source? Bingo, that's you. So if you haven't thought about pitching influencers in your niche yet, take a moment and write down the influencers that are in your space, those who are separated by just, a couple million followers, or the people that you might actually know a friend who knows a friend who knows them. Your podcast isn't just content. It's social proof that businesses are ready and willing to pay for. Okay, now this one might feel intimidating, but trust me, it works. Going directly to your local businesses in your niche and offering them a paid ad spot can really change the game. Now, before you start worrying about your podcast numbers, listen up. Most businesses don't even know what podcast stats mean. They just know that your audience exists and you can deliver value. Not only that, they know that you're consistent, so you can consistently market their business without them having to lift a finger. So here's what you can do. You can use this plug and play pitch deck that I have down in the description below. Just swap out your logo and your numbers and you're good to go. This is all you need to start the conversation. But the key here is to be smart about your price. Once your pitch deck is ready, the next thing you need to do is list out the local businesses in your area that you can start to build a relationship with. Yes, it would be nice to do all of this online without stepping foot out of your house, but let's be real. There are brick and mortar businesses with real money that will pay you for a sponsorship because they need more eyes and more trusted people in their industry. Think about it. There are lots of baby boomers out there with kids or without kids who just don't understand the power of online marketing. And you could be their introduction to this tip. So write down the local businesses. How does their business contribute to your audience and what your audience wants to achieve? And then take your pitch deck, find the owner in the establishment, and set up a time to have a conversation with them. If you want to know more about how to do this, drop a comment below. We can talk more about how to actually go about having these conversations, but I want to make sure I'm creating content that's in alignment with what you need. So once you have a list of the local businesses that you work with, your pricing should match the value that you're bringing. So the key here after you've done step 1 and 2 is to price smart. Ask yourself, will my podcast bring them 50 more eyeballs and ears, or is it going to bring them 5,000? Your price should really match the value you're bringing. I don't know if this one feels as scary as I thought it would to you, so tell me in the comments. Does this feel like something easy for you to do? Type a yes or no in the comments so I know we got some champions up in here. And remember, most businesses don't even care about your stats. They don't care about your downloads. They want to know that you can bring them customers. So keep it simple, stick to the value that your podcast brings them, and I promise you, you'll be successful. If you're wondering how am I going to bring customers into their establishment, think about this. How many people constantly listen to your podcast? Even if it's a consistent 10 viewers, you can start building relationships with them by asking them how can they get to the solution that solves their problem. If you have an entertainment podcast, maybe what your sponsorships are about is an event location or a club or bar nearby. I've done a podcast sponsorship with a bar before. If your listeners are trying to make more money, perhaps you want to connect with a local tax person in your neighborhood so that you can drive eyes to their business. I know you might not want your podcast to be localized right now, but when you're starting out, local businesses are 1, more trustworthy, 2, you can actually track the results, and 3, you can build a community around the people who are closest to you before you go global, because you will eventually go global. Okay, for those of you thinking, I haven't even started my podcast yet. How long will it take me to get paid? I have a bonus tip for you, don't worry. If you want to go out for a sponsorship before you launch your podcast, here's what you need to do. First, be clear on why you started the podcast in the first place. Are you solving a problem? Are you bringing awareness to an issue? Are you educating a specific audience? Because when you communicate with sponsors and partners, they're going to want to know why they are tacking onto your mission. Once you're clear on why you started the podcast or why you're starting the podcast, research potential sponsors that align with your mission. Refer back to 1, 2, and 3, and think about sponsors that actually align with your podcast vision. This can be as easy as a Google search, or you ask in ChatGPT, what organizations support insert niche or insert your mission. You can also tap into your existing network. Make a list of businesses or organizations you already have connections with and call them one by one. You'll be surprised at who's willing to invest in you building your vision. Now, before I get too deep into the process, would you want me to break down a step-by-step guide on how to pitch sponsors before you even launch? Let me know in the comment and I'll put it together for you. So just remember, even if you haven't launched yet, you can still secure sponsorships if you know how to do it right. The point in this whole conversation, whether you have a podcast or you're just getting started, is that when you secure these sponsorships, they should be based on you getting those businesses results. And what are those results? That is up to the conversation you have with them. Now, after you promise those results and they know the stats, I don't suggest you lie about your stats. Don't say you have thousands and thousands of downloads when you know you don't. Be clear about what you can promise, the price that you can offer, and let them test out your platform to see if you can bring them results. So there you have it. 3 proven ways that I've used in my own podcast that you can use in your podcast to monetize today, even if you're just getting started. And listen, if I could do it, you absolutely can too. When I started my podcast, I had no clue even one person would listen to my podcast consistently until I actually got real live feedback from people who tried out restaurants that I sponsored in my podcast or even asked me about the communities that I sponsored in my content. It was mind-blowing, but people are actually listening to you. So whether you have a podcast and you have an audience or you're just getting started, this process really works. You just have to stop overthinking and execute. The key is realizing that your podcast has value. It has actual value. Listen, you've put in the work, and now it's time for you to get paid for it. Think of your podcast as your portfolio. This proves what you can do. And even if you haven't gotten started, let your track record in your relationship prove that you can actually step up to the plate and deliver a quality show. And remember, if you want to make this process even easier, I've listed my free plug and play podcast pitch deck so that you can download it right now, switch out your logo and the details, and literally go and have these conversations. Let's go get money. So click the link below to download it. So tell me, which strategy are you going to try out first? Which one is best suited for your audience? Comment, and I'd love to know where you are in your podcasting journey. Like I said, I want to keep these videos short and sweet, but I thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video. Until next time, peace out.